Well, welcome to MDM4U, Mathematics of Data Management. And just before we actually get into any of the course material, I just wanted to give a little overview of what is this course actually all about. In my opinion, there are basically three things in this course. We're going to look at probability, we're going to look at statistics, and we're going to look at organizing data. Okay, and these three topics go well together. That's why they're all included in this course. And in particular, there's a very close relationship between probability and statistics. And the skills that we learn in organizing data are kind of going to inform both our study of statistics and our study of probability. So if you take a look at the tracking sheet that is posted, listing all of the units, all of the topics of each unit, and about how long it should take you, which of these three categories do each of these topics fit into? Well, we are going to start with probability. Permutations, combinations, binomial theorem, clearly probability, are all probability topics. Then we're going to take a little break here and we're going to take a look at some of the software that you can use for organizing data. Okay, and ways of finding data and doing a little bit of research with it. Then we come back to probability again, where we take a look at probability distributions, both discrete and continuous probability distributions. But already by this point, we are starting to get into some of the things that we are going to need to use when we do statistics. We really get into statistics when we start doing data collection, one variable statistics, obviously, and then two variable statistics and the normal distribution. And we're going to use aspects of organizing data when we do data collection and when we do some of our two variable statistics, and even, I guess, a little bit of our one variable statistics as well. And then finally, we put all of this stuff together at the very end when we do our final project here, where you are going to collect some data, analyze that data, and sort of use it to test a hypothesis. So what are these three topics, or these three sort of big ideas? What are they really all about? Well, let's start with organizing data. Okay? What do we mean when we say data? Well, data is the raw material from which information is obtained. So we can collect a bunch of data, and we want to do something to it in order to get information. So this is like the raw numbers. And this is the stuff, the information is the stuff that we want to actually be able to find. Okay? So what sorts of things are we going to talk about when we're talking about organizing data? Well, we're going to talk about the different types of data we can collect, how we can actually collect it, what are some possible problems with the data that we collect that is going to make it difficult for us to get the information that we want from it. We're going to look at how we can organize this data in terms of graphs, tables, et cetera, what software we can use to facilitate organizing into graphs, tables, et cetera, and we're going to start doing some analysis of it. And analysis is really the way that we get this information out of our raw data. So the process of doing this analysis is what we call statistics. Statistics, one definition of it, is obtaining information from data using mathematical operations. Okay? And statistics, if we're going to talk about statistics and probability together, we can look at it this way. Statistics is about looking backwards. Okay? We have some data that we have collected. Okay? We use these mathematical processes or these mathematical operations onto this data, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what kind of situation or what set of rules would produce this data that we have measured. So we have the data, and we're trying to figure out the rules of the situation that would give us this data that we have collected. Probability, in some ways, is the opposite. It's about prediction. It's about looking forward and saying what is going to happen in the future. And when we're working with probability problems, we know all of the things about a particular situation. We're given that kind of information, or we're given a set of rules, and we want to predict what would happen if we measure some piece of data that comes from this situation. So we want to use what we know about a situation to predict what will happen or what we will get if we actually collect a little bit of data. So to make all of this a little bit more concrete, let's take an example. Okay, let's take a situation such as a sock drawer. In both probability and statistics, we can look at this situation of this sock drawer and ask slightly different questions about the socks that are in this drawer. A probability type question would be something like this. If we know there are 30 white socks, 20 black socks, and 50 red socks, what is the likelihood that if we take 3 socks at random, they're all the same color? Okay? So this is a probability question because we know all of the information about the situation. Okay? We know what the socks are in the drawer, and we're trying to predict what is going to happen when we take some of them out. So in other words, we know everything about the population or all of the socks that are in the drawer. We are trying to figure out something about our sample or the ones that we actually take out. Now, if we were to ask a statistics question, it might be something like this. We pull 10 random socks from the drawer. We get 4 white ones, 6 red ones, and 2 black ones. If there are a total of 100 socks in the drawer, how many are red? So in this case, we have taken a sample of 10 socks out. And this is what we know. This is the data that we have collected. And we are trying to work backwards to figure out what this tells us about the population or all of the socks that are in our drawer. So we are starting, of course, as I mentioned earlier, with probability. So our first unit, permutations, and our second unit, combinations, are really focused on teaching us ways of counting up all of the possibilities that we have in a situation. So if we've got some sort of a sock drawer here, what are all of the possible results when we pull 3 socks out of the drawer, given some information about how many socks are in there? Or how many different ways can we get 3 socks of the same color coming out? Or how many different, if we pull out 3 socks, what are all of the different possibilities in terms of color combinations that we can get? And that's where we're going to start with probability and organized counting.